Alright, hello and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're going to be continuing the adventure tonight, the Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. This should be the final part, so here's hoping it ends on a better note than 23rd of February, 11:32 a.m., the Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Joyful, jubilant, jumping jacks! Oh my. Oh, Mr. Natsume! Yeah? Oh, pleased to meet you. Pleased to see you. Locum student Naruto Esquire, the non-locum judicial assistant, Miss Makataba Esquire S. I'm so pleased for you. Don't know how I misled that so badly. Alright, now at long last there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent, and that my tea is innocent. Ah, good morning, my dear fellows. Ah, Harlock Sholmes. May my tippy tea drink my tea involve forever silent. I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful. Please, save your... Shouldn't I know what you're all thinking? What? Wait, what? Good morning, he says, when it's nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is clearly written across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought tomorrow for once I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in the court to support my companions. Such spiritual determination has a beauty all of its own, does it not? Oh, yes. Really now? And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep, I queried. Why, time after time, they make the same foolish blunder. Why do they oversleep? Not enough sleep the night before? Answer came to me at once, so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight to the matter? Oh, yes? Upon realization, I attempted to experiment. I didn't sleep a wink last night, and the results, by first light, I was exhausted and began to assailed by fits of drowsiness. Oh, shocking. And so, by conclusion of last night's experiment, this, a good night's sleep is, quite simply essential. Yes, I think, most of us probably knew that already. What others presuppose I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this? Yes, of course. The poison Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task, as the bottle was near empty, but such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine, so I was right. This is a bit too perfect. Interesting. Perhaps, though, of course, such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave it in your care now, but licking inside of the neck of the bottle is not recommended. A bottle of poison with slow acting. Ah, could I have a word? Could I have a word? Gregson, how good of you to come? Forget it, excuse me. Wait a minute, Inspector. I, don't wish to make such a nuisance of myself. From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself. My dear Inspector. Please speak freely. Pretend I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me. Do you have a results, Inspector, of Mr. Shamspeare's room? Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. I'm here about something else, actually. The, dead convict, actually. Oh, you mean, the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shamspeare's room. A man by the name of... Ah, yes, Selden. I went through the archives of the yard and dug out the fellow's file. there's something in there that, well, it caught my eye. Something caught your eye? What is it, Inspector? What? Well, I've copied out the relevant parts for you so you can read it for yourselves. Oh, thank you. The Capital Offenders File. Oh, these documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. His final words were, you want my vast fortune? It's yours. You just have to find it first. And again, we're gonna have to look at this entirely. So this is the poison we've been hearing so much about. Strychnine. There's a few remnants at the bottom of the bottle here. Look. You mustn't be tempted to try it. Of course not, as long as we don't lose this trial. No! Even if we lose the trial! No! We mustn't lose the trial in the first place, Mr. Naruhodo. Make your mind up, Susato. Yeah, I don't want... After that embarrassment in the first case, I'm absolutely taking a double look about everything. Alright, 18 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder, died of natural causes in prison. His final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. Estimated £1,000 worth of loot he stole remains undiscovered. Manchester's strange ways prison announced the death of convicted murder and burglar Selden by natural cause in the early hours of the morning. He'd been suffering a fever since the end of October. Lured by the shouts of his fellow cellmates, the medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. Interesting, so he was already found guilty, yet he died for other reasons. And I can't help but notice it mentions his cellmate a few times, but it fails to mention who that was. And there's no way that would not be unmentioned unless it was relevant. I'll rearrange everything in the court records so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though, Gregson? Well, you're the one who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in proper fashion. Ooh, Scotland Yard's workings are wonderful. Indeed, my dear fellows, the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A diamond in the rough, maybe. Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Basically, he doesn't want to owe us a favor, we can call him later. That's perfectly fine, really. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way into the courtroom at once. Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery. No nodding off at all. Certainly not. Of course not. Let me grab a drink while I'm here. Once again, just bottled water tonight. More than sufficient for keeping me in good shape during a VN like this. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Mustache in a flood of tears personally, so best of luck to you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, yes, Mr. Natsume. It's time, isn't it? Yes, this is it. Ms. Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspeare. This is going to be the final battle, then. We're going to get the truth here. I won't really have saved Soseki-san unless I expose the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Ryanosuke. You have to... "23rd of February, 12:30 p.m. at the Old Bailey." In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court in session again now. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. Namely, that the victim of the case we aired here only a few days ago is the true perpetrator of this incident. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing in my opinion, my lord. However... the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. A rather cold assessment from the honorable British prosecutor, I must say. Yeah, you know it's a big deal when even the judge says, okay, that's a bit far. So, Lord Van Zyke is the new witness present and ready to take the stand? Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well, bailiff, bring the witnesses in. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please. William Shamspeare, my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim to be pitied. Currently unemployed, in other words. Oh, harsh. But yeah. I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Well, no, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure is too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent, I suppose. Also currently unemployed, in other words. What a coterie? Mr. Shamspeare, my lord, I am thy humble servant. I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility is raised that you are in fact an assailant and sent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you. I would for naught else, my lord. Miss Green? Yes? You are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume? Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon. And do you accept the charge, Miss Green? I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, my lady, die to live. Verily, I know not thy prickly pigmented personage. Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair. It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It just so happens I passed by that neighborhood 6 days ago, that is all. On the night this man was poisoned, I was still in the hospital fighting for my life. Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Garrett household. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days. I was stuck in the middle of my back by the knife, through no fault of my own. Now I'm under suspicion. What other relevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing. Your energies may be better spent worrying about the random knife attacks I feel, Miss Green. At this point in time, it appears to connect you with Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings. All that appears to connect you with Shamspeare's lodgings is the Briar Road incident 6 days ago, and that's why we'd like you to testify formally now about what exactly happened. Oh no, that incident 6 days ago? You mean you want me to relive that awful accident? Unfortunately, I'm afraid so. Please tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear about your movements for that day too, Mr. Shamspeare. But what happened 6 days ago had nothing to do with me being poisoned. Let us proceed then. The witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road on the evening of the 17th of February. Witness testimony. The evening of the 17th of February. It was 6 days ago at 5 p.m. I was walking along the snow when I suddenly stabbed back. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case have their lodgings. I was at the tavern on the eve which thou speakest, for I bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyways, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business. Yes, a second incident inside a week of what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence. Meanwhile, you said you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspeare. It was the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Mary, what commotion did the office of the law make in the floor above mine? When Soseki-san was arrested under suspicion of attempted murder, as suspected, there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. True, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure. There's something lurking in the shadows here, I feel certain of it. And this is my one and only chance to expose it. Alright, Counsel, you may now cross-examine the two witnesses if you wish. Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Evening of the 17th. 6 days ago, at about 5 p.m., I was walking along the snow and I was suddenly stabbed back. I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It was awful. I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find the case had already been solved and the culprit arrested. Yes, the incident has been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider it a bad dream that ended in your awakening, and should now be forgotten. Yes, I suppose so. Thank you. But before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I do need you to remember the details one last time. I told the court exactly what happened that day, for us to uncover the truth of this new case. The trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case have been lodgings. What were you doing there that day, though? What do you mean? The art school you attend. What's it called? Yes, it's the Thorndrake Academy of Fine Arts. According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 stops away from the scene at the Underground. I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, is that right? So, why would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End? Well, it's because... Oh, yes, of course, I thought it maybe to make a nice picture. The witness is a student of the art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint ground urban vistas. That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town. Perhaps quaint would have been a less, grating term. The point is, she's definitely hiding something. Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. She's trying to hide why she was there that evening. Must mean there's a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this. And you, Mr. Shamspear, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago? Would you tell the court what exactly you were doing? It would be my pleasure, sire. I was at the tavern of the eve of which thou speakest, for I bespoke my supper. So, a tavern, you say? Which one? 'Twas the Slug and Salad, why did I tarry? 'Tis a jewel of the... Oh, remember, she had a message that told her to go to the Slug and Salad that night, and he had to stay there the entire night because he was expecting to meet with her. And a little unexpected, I feel. What do you mean, Lord Van Zykes? It's a jewel and a little unexpected. The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room. Oh? It's true, the menu lists premium crust of bread and glass of water, different levels of cloudiness. I would have expected clubs grubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather, soupy water and pea-like mush. All equally appetizing. I just wanted to try some of the water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that? How different can water really be? Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why I had to go to that particular establishment. Agreed. In fact, on the day of all days, he dined at a place he wouldn't normally. It does stand out. So Mr. Shamspear's own actions the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. Mr. Shamspear? Yes, sire? On the day in question, is that not the case that you visit the Slug and Salad in a place you don't normally patronize for a very particular reason? I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakest. Very well, I will present the court with some evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day, namely...
Take that!
Oh, good Horatio. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Horatio? I believe it's a line from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Mr. Naruto? Be it a line from great Shakespeare or from this Mr. Shamspeare, the message is the same. My learned friend here is wide off the mark. That's right, I need the other half of the letter. Probably surprising giving this witness's obtuse literary quotes. Unfortunately, we were not given the other half of the letter. We have to get her to do so. I do wonder if there perhaps is some evidence would explain why it's the Slug and Sally visited. I think we've discussed this issue enough. Let us return to the witness's testimony, please. Gladly would thy bidding do, Horatio. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate. It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning. If you remember, you did mention it yesterday at the hospital. Ah. It was related to a card you were holding. Miss Green? What was that? She clearly just hid something behind her back. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. What does that matter? That's nothing to do with Duncan.
Excuse me!
Excuse me? Mr. Shamspear, do you have something to share with the court? To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's word springeth forth me without ne'er a thought. Please don't tell me you're possessed by it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, is it? Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago made you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps. Well, nay, sire. It was nothing at all. Presumably you know the name, though, Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house. I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging be only a lonely occupation, sire. My fellow lodgers are rarely known to me. So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours. Miss Green? Me, my lord? I haven't done something wrong. That card was mentioned before, containing the note. Do you have it upon your person? I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really. Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please. I have what I need now. Of course. That's what links Mr. Shamspear and Miss Green. Duncan Ross. Now continue with our testimony, please, Miss Green. Anyway, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing of the police business. Yeah, you didn't regain consciousness till the day after the trial, did you? In the early hours. Exactly, so how could I have had anything to do with it? And yet you still haul me into court like this? Honestly. So at the time of the poisoning, the witness was unconscious in her hospital bed. Could there be a more airtight alibi, I ask you? And yet, in spite of it, you claim I was the culprit. But you certainly haven't produced any evidence to support your wild claim, have you? None at all. There you have it. The good lady has yet to see evidence, my learned friend. I'm working on it. Counsel, I will point out here that the jury's next decision will be final. We're really up against the wall here. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, you've pursued Mr. Shamspear wonderfully. It's worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Alright, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere. Well, as you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that? Oh, yes, of course. And yelling out objections isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose. Yeah, this is to remind that it's not necessarily... You don't necessarily have to present evidence directly.
Hold it!
Yeah, he doesn't mention exactly which tavern in here, so we need to get him to specify which one. That's why we need to press him before we present the evidence. Yeah, you know we're doing a good job when he breaks character. I should have realized I didn't have the evidence yet. I knew precisely what I was asking for, but I was risking it for no reason last time. Miss Green's card. What the? How's that wrong? The envelope's been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it? Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that. Ah. What is it? The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen the exact same shape somewhere. Oh, you don't mean... Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Narwood? Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up. Okay, so I had to do this first. That was my mistake. They go together perfectly. It's a torn-off envelope clearly belongs to this card. Yeah, if I had not been so bold before, I would have done a fine job.
Hold it!
I think presenting either is fine, but now that I've updated them. Here we are. Yep, this is it. Alright, I believe this torn-up piece of envelope here reveals the answer, because it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the card that was submitted into evidence earlier. Oh goodness, Miss Green's card, you mean? That's right, Lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It's a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspear, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Huh? Personally, I find it hard to believe that's coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspear? Well... Excuse me, can I say something? Yes, Miss Green? That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this odd man, does it? Well, you'd think so, yes, but it's hard to believe it's merely... my lord, may I? May you what, Miss Green? I'd like to make something very clear about that card. Very well, then you may amend your testimony to include details about the peculiar note. This note was delivered to me at my address. It has nothing to do with the odd man next to me here. I think you said you received it the day before the incident, didn't you? Yes, that's right. There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope. It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I have no idea who sent it. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who's Duncan Ross, perhaps? A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest, but in the end I decided to go. So you found out what the information was? Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight. Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back. As my learned friend hopefully remembers. Yes, of course. She never made it to the meeting. The torn-off envelope proves it. Alright, so the day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address, and upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in the hospital. Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me. Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is. What do you mean? Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's a torn-off end of an envelope. Oh, is it? And it just so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received. Where did you find that? In Mr. Shamspear's room. In my room? Mr. Shamspear, did you perhaps remember this note from somewhere? Oh, well, your actions afternoon follow the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 15th, and that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspear, you already knew about this note, didn't you? Or maybe it was either was delivered to him, and Miss Green wrote it, or And you, Miss Green. Ah, what did I do? As this torn-off note of the envelope provides, the note was originally in Mr. Shamspeare's room, so how is it that it came to be in your possession? I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist, after all. There's only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it. You did... Sorry, thou hast what? Thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me? It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again. Miss Green. Yes. Whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you've endured in recent events, anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind. Yes, I know. Very well then, witnesses, you will give formal testimony again now, on the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received. Witness testimony. The anomaly of the note. I do remember now, 'twas a week ago, peradventure, that note was delivered unto me. On the day wherein I did tarry long hour the slug and salad, and yet nobody came. Thereafter, on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck in this man's room, do you? Why would I? I can point out the villain here. What's that? And as for that torn-off piece of envelope, I don't know anything about it. No claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspeare? Faith, 'tis so, my lord, as I'd swear to have set upon the table by my lodgings. Yet 'tis clear to me now that since I've returned from the tavern that night, I've not laid eyes upon it. Well, that being the case, young lady, it would appear that your testimony was... a lie? Is that what you think? Unfair to think I'm the one lying. I beg your pardon. I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. That note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know who the lie around here is. If that's true, Miss Green, how do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I don't see why I should explain. I'm sorry. I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is just to say what happened. That's all. It's your job to give the explanation and proof, you know, the fledgling lawyer. The fledgling will do his best. Evidently, my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth. Well, counsel? Alright, I'm ready. Very well, then the defense will now proceed with the cross-examination of the witnesses. Miss Green clearly did break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, there can be no question of that. And now how she acquired her note, yeah. Two facts that are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this. It's not a pretty one. Cross-examination. The anomaly of the note. I do remember when I was a week ago, the note was delivered unto me. Alright, and can you shed any light on the contents of the note at all? Nay, sire, 'tis as strange as me as a foreign tongue. Even with the knowledge of literature as great as mine own, verily, 'tis impenetrable. But Mr. Duncan Ross had lodgings in the same household as you. In effect, he was your neighbor. Surely you knew him, didn't you? Alas, if the choices be 'twiz I knew him and I knew him not, then 'twiz with foreboding I must be forced to declare we were by some small measure acquainted. Despite your claims, though, you followed the note's instructions and went to the slug and salad. Presumably that has nothing to do with your knowledge of literature? Mary, nuts will have better to me, sire, save for the lure of curiosity. So 'tis true, I was compelled by my own eager heart to betake myself to the tavern, yet in the end my curiosity was not sated. One day worked therein, I did tarry long hour, yet nobody came, because she was supposed to meet him there. So even after waiting for an hour, nobody appeared. Well, yes, sire, just as thou sayest. Oh, really? You paused for a moment before you answered. In truth, when thou asked whether nobody appeared, I did suddenly recall. Really? Do you mean to tell the court that somebody did appear after all? I was not alone that night for the slug and salad, my lord. No, 'tis returning to me now. I did treat my lips to almost clear water, and my innards to premium crust of bread. And all around me dance a great many companions. What do you mean? Flies, sire, flies. Oh, goodness. In the name of Beelzebub, where were they? Were they fairies, perchance, from Midsummer Night's Dream, come to taunt me? I think they were just flies. Can't help thinking the flies ought to choose something more wholesome to buzz around. Is that wrong of me? Thereafter, on the evening I shared with the company of the Japanese fellow, I did see the note had vanished. When exactly did you notice that it had gone missing? Such idle thoughts never occupy my mind. I am busied with greater ideas. In other words, you didn't notice. Several days passed between your outing the cavern and Mr. Natsume's visit to your room. Yes, it would appear that the note disappeared sometime in that interval, and that's a very long time indeed. Such idle thoughts never occupy my mind. I'm busied with greater ideas. And yet during that time, Miss Green was as comatose as possible, was she not? Well, then she could not have been stealing things from Mr. Shamspeare's room. Yes, of course. It's all some sort of misunderstanding, isn't it, Mr. Prosecutor, sir? Oh, even he's not convinced. You have so far failed to give a satisfactory explanation of how you came by the note. I'm not here to advocate for your defense, madam. I will not tolerate inconsistencies in your story. You would do well to remember that. Oh, dearie me. What's Lord Van Zyke's getting at?
Hold it!
It seems that this note was actually delivered to Mr. Shamspeare about 1 week ago. Oh, does it? But for some reason, it ended up in your possession. I can't think of any way that could have happened except for you breaking into Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings. But for what reason would the witness have done that? I won't deny that Miss Green's possession of the note would appear to defy logic. However, until and unless her involvement in this case can be proven in some other way, any further pursuit of this note is meaningless. Miss Green could only come to be in possession of the note by stealing it from Mr. Shamspeare's room. And yet, there's no obvious reason why she would have done such a thing. What if there was some other reason she broke into his lodgings, though? Yes, we should pursue that idea, Mr. Naruhodo. Close now, I can feel it. Closer breakthrough. I can point out the villain here, and as for that torn off piece of...
Hold it!
So you don't want to tell the court the truth about the letter, is that it? I'm a fletching artist, remember? Artists are nearly always introverted characters. Introverted? Ah, this fledgling doth readily cast aspirations about my nature. Yet I am an angel, a seraph, birds do harmonize with my song, and the wind doth frolic on my wing. Oh pity, where dost thou accuse one so pure of heart, simple woman? Pure of heart? I don't think so. Even a fledgling like me can see you're just a failure. Tragedy, thou shalt not know the true heart of an artist until thine instruction hereafter by death. Oh, the days, oh, the years, alas to the night in thee, thou must wait so long and in vain. Mr. Naruhodo, inject with some clever remark. This is your chance to shine. I'm no Shakespearean actor, Miss Susato. No, as far as I can tell, the only thing that's going to resolve this argument is evidence, yes. It's clear that Miss Green did in fact break into Mr. Shamspeare's room, isn't it? And that's where she found this letter. Yeah, two more or less foregone conclusions that led me to one terrifying conclusion. Terrifying? Yes. I'm afraid to say the outcome of this cross-examination may well change how we look at this case completely. To place the poison. To place the poison. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle, and though the contents spilt during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained. Ah! According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholm's chemistry set, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare. Ah? Miss Green, you broke in this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison. Can this be? You broke in my room? It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there's only one logical conclusion we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Dearie me. Order! Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the edge of the gas pipe with intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But it means Miss Green did indeed set this odious predicament 6 days ago when the victim had put his mouth at pipe the very evening as expected. Attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely. That's a very good that's a very good point. Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon? He's helping us? There was a significant police presence in that area that evening on account of the incident on Bridle Road. Local residents were being interviewed the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. Lord Van Zykes? And of course, the following morning, there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Oh, yes. I mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder. That's right. As the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas pipe for a very sinister reason himself, to cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. And he was in prison, but once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In those circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare would have no reason to blow air to the gas pipe. His intended victim being safe and ironically safer in that prison cell. With the need to tamper on the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right, Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. The trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out. Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. Oh, Mary! With that new understanding, it becomes clear that this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? The court will recall the note gave instructions to visit Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and the recipient should tell nobody else. And the reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at his home at the stated time. To make sure I wasn't home? Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing she wouldn't be disturbed. You mean to say that letter was written by Miss Green, yes. In order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison on the mouth of the gas pipe in your room. Order! Order! What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Just who are you? Why did you try to kill me? Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So that's what's behind all this. You will share your apparent understanding with the court, please, counsel. Which person is behind this woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life? Duncan Ross. Duncan Ross? Duncan Ross. That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in lodgings at Mr. Garrett's, somebody else was renting the room. Yeah, that's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings at Mr. Garrett's, somebody else was renting the room. I knew I'd heard that name somewhere before. It was all over the papers a month ago when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague... Ah! Of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claim was strangled by the convict's curse or some such. Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspear blowing in the gas pipe and causing the gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple. Ah! Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths. That's all people care about. It's an interesting story. They want to know. It goes across their minds that real people are involved. Once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten him. You mean you? Duncan was... Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé. Fiancé? You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspear. But she's known exactly who you are all along. Because you're her sworn enemy, the murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry. Marry? Miss Green, is that not the case? That in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspear, you smeared poison on the end of the gas pipe. This is all quite extraordinary. Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse both parties, counsel? Each different counts of murder? Yes, my lord. That's correct. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a cycle of violence we're getting here. And only by exposing in court can we finally end this cycle, this madness.
Objection!
Inhaling so deeply, it appears my fledgling friend has taken a lungful of dubious gas that's causing this judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspear have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You have completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man. Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I have been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance. And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything either. Miss Green. I'm sure you think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. But you broke into the man's room. If you didn't do that, smear poison on the pipe. What was your reason? I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. I'm sorry. You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence or something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. Oh violence, oh villainy, oh tyranny, oh rounded of woman. But in any case, whenever I leave my room, I do turn the key to the lock. And the whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door with some with some terps and a piece of wire. Oh awfulness, oh artfulness, oh tyranny, oh profanity. We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now, you will tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed. Well, I spotted the note I'd sent him lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it I discovered a secret hiding place. Eh? Yeah, we also discovered that hiding place in our investigation. Inside we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Ah, yes, well, the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty. What? There was something inside of it? Yes. This rather nice key. Oh! What are you doing with that? What the? Every ounce of color is drained from his face. Give it here. Give it to me now. It's mine. I inherited it. What was that, witness? What did you just say? You inherited it. No, I... What's all this about? He inherited that key? Well, it was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I don't know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back to me this minute, give it to me! He's breaking character completely. Calm yourself, witness. So Mr. Shamspear has tried, and in one case succeeded, to take the life of 2 lodgers now. Yes, his motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true that there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspear at first, but considering everything we now know, I think there's actually something that could explain it. What? I guess this means he's the cellmate, since he inherited it because he was the only other person there at the time. What? I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal, everything we've seen and heard, because I'm sure that I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all these events. Nutcase Counsel, I must demand that you present evidence to the court in support of your claim. What is it you say can explain the motivation for Mr. Shamspear's alleged crimes? The capital offenders file. Oh, that's an official police report, is it not? The Selden fire? How did you get a hold of that? Selden? The now sadly deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them, the fact that they had lodgings in the same room. Well, yes, we know this certainly. A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries. I see. And it just so happens that convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. Some 1,000 pounds worth of loot that he stole, which as of yet remains to be found. Oh, yes, of course, it's coming back to me now. It's written in this file here. 1,000 pounds lost en route to hell. That was how the papers summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with the convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret, the location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in. Ah, you mean this key is... Mr. Shamspear is you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not? Oh, what are you talking about? Just a false charge, I tell you, a false charge. The name of the inmate who was with Selden at the time of his death isn't noted in this file. A simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false that charge really is. But even if it's true, why would the man be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings? There's only one explanation for that, my lord. It was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So it all comes out. Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspear's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garridib's lodgings in the hopes of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was unable to offer him the accommodation of his choice, because Selden's old room had already been left to someone else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shamspear subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of that room. When he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching to the newly vacated room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it. Mr. Sosuke Natsume, the defendant of this case, no less. So you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspear? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple and avaricious reason, to get your hands on the 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. You... Looks like I'm gonna... Looks like I'm gonna die before they hang me by the neck. Listen, if you want to have me loot anything, just stop the cops getting their mitts on it. It's hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key to it. Take it. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess. Shamspear. It's mine. What did you just say? It's mine. That loot is mine. Mr. Shamspear? It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me. For the time being, anyway. Bella, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close, I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it. And I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up? There's no question in my mind now. This man's guilty through and through. He seems so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a way. Pardon? There's one way I can finish him. No. He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot, which means all we need to do is find it first. Find a plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If they're at all, they must be well hidden indeed. Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule. Only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece in this complex puzzle, but I think we might have it in our possession already. Key. Is there anything in this picture that would require a key? No, not that I'm seeing. Anything in this picture that requires a key? Where would they not search? I'm thinking maybe the gas meter, but that's the only thing I have that as a think of that as a keyhole. Or rather, I think we may well have something that can help us find where that loot is hidden. My lord. Yes, Consul? The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we're already in possession of something that could give us a clue as to its whereabouts. It's our last chance, so it has to be worth a gamble. Besides, we've used the same technique once already, and it definitely paid off then. Oh, very well then, Counsel. Let the court hear your idea. Where do you propose we can use in order to locate the hiding place of the deceased convict's haul? Oh, the handprints. If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspear's handprints on the wall of his lodgings. That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective, Mr. Sholmes. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? Do you really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great bar recognizes a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspear. Perhaps we should complete for the honor of the most ridiculous title. Ah! 'Tis Sherlock Holmes himself! What are you doing here, great detective? Usual haunts are the streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long. And I see your complexion's worsened since we last met. Mr. Sholmes? He does know Lord Van Zykes, then. Well enough to say something like that in any case. Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, that does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit. If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already. Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's a method by which we're able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. You need only a small sample of something the individual had previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you've been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Who am I to use as a sample to make this indicator solution of this time? Thank you for offering to help, Mr. Sholmes. When the convict was arrested, he was living in what's now Soseki-san's room. We need a sample to help locate Selden's loop that's hidden in his old room. What form will the sample take? Does Selden show up here? No, he does not. No, he's not showing up. Selden is not showing up, unfortunately. We'll present evidence to present Selden's file. Alright, we'll need a particular piece of evidence in order to create the indicator solution. Indeed, and you have the piece of evidence in question? Yes, I believe so. Upon my word, Mr. Naruto, your powers of reasoning appear to be up. So, which particular item is the one in question? What piece of evidence do you propose we use to help find Selden's loot?
Take that!
Have a look at this. As far as I'm able to ascertain, you have very little confidence in your choice. What? Why? Why would you think that? Oh, my dear fellow, once again there is no mystery. Did you really believe that minute deflection of your left eye would escape my attention? But I asked you to look at evidence, not my eye. I think, we need to reconsider this from the start, Mr. Naruhodo. What I feel as though Susato-san's studying my left eye now. I'm ready and waiting, Mr. Naruhodo. The rest is in your hands. We don't have anything Selden was holding, though. We'll need something of Selden's in order to create the indicator solution to find his loot. And something the convict owned happens to be possession of somebody listed in the court record. On my word, Mr. Naruto, your powers of reasoning appeared... Oh, right, it's the key, because that was his key. What particular person do you have in mind? From who can we obtain a possession of the late convict Selden to create the indicator solution? Oh, yeah, as per usual, I was overthinking it. Miss Green? Me? What do you want with me? The key around your neck, if you please. Sorry? That key belonged to Selden. There'll be remnants of secretions from the man's skin on its surface we can use. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker, and find out exactly where Selden touched the room that he used to rent. Mr. Shamspear, as one great to another, I assure you. If the late convict's hall is hidden somewhere in the former lodgings, I shall uncover it no more than 30 minutes. So, Mr. Shamspear, the truth is well within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hands on Selden's stolen wealth. In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No, give the key to me. The detective shan't have it. It's over, Mr. Shamspear. No, no. You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt. Whoa. Oh, Shamble Spear. Despair. It's like he's getting shot. Be thy name! No, I never intended to kill the man. I wanted to drive him out of the room. That's all. So he'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods. Yet after you'd killed the young man, you still didn't move into that room. I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused. Why? I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing. Mr. Garrett really has had a lot to put up with. And he had the gas repair done work immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then, this Japanese man swooped in and just in the right moment to sign a new lease. Poor Mr. Natsume. What unfortunate timing. Then, 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road with the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance. But it wasn't to be. No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day. And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books. I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot. Which is why on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, he once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds a stove in his room. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you to a deadly trap. William Shakespeare. How'd it go? To be or not to be, that's the question. From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to what you've done. At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died. The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. Gas supply? Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's the convict's curse. Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is. Oh, well, then if that's important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There's spare rooms at my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I better not. We said we'd wait until our graduates before we told our parents, remember? But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night, he fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known it was going to happen, I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school. Something kept drawing me back to the house on Briar Road. I saw an Eastern-looking man with a mustache coming out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up the road to Red Grubberies for some food, so I followed him and sat myself down next to him. Had some watery-looking soup and started to pick a quarrel with the publican. That place is cursed, I tell you, cursed. The ghost of that convict who used to live there, trying to suffocate me. I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. That room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. But the pipes have been checked, no problem there. It's like I'm the problem, that's what they're thinking. How could that be? Duncan was gone and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? And I remembered a rumor I'd heard about how gas companies go around investigating the gas installations. Oh, rumor? Ah, you mean... Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems. They go around checking the pipes. Oh, anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind, and it just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me day and night. So I bought this at one of the black markets in the East End. A black market? I'd never been, I just heard people talk about them. And you really can buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out one way or another. Was Duncan's death an accident or was it murder? And your chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and wait. If Mr. Shamspeare is innocent, nothing would come of what you'd done. But if he was guilty, he would pay for his crimes dearly. I found out the name of the man I suspected, William Shamspeare. Then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad Bar on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 2nd. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I knew that it'd worry him enough so he'd be sure to go. It's a way to see if it worked. And of course, Mr. Shamspeare followed the instructions to the letter. I worked out where the gas pipe was straight away, so I smeared a good amount of the poison I'd bought all around the mouth of the pipe. All the time praying the devil's work wouldn't be done, and it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, no. All the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and the culprit would get just desserts. Shouldn't it be desserts with 2 S's and not 1? With that, we finally have all the details of the case. "3 days ago, when you were first stood in the dock before me, this whole affair seemed relatively straightforward. Yes, my lord. I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that we would subsequently find lurking behind the scenes. It has been a long road, my his friend. Oh, yes. And when I certainly didn't envisage walking with you. Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green." "Yes, my lord." "You will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shamspeare." "Yes, I know." "And you, Mr. Shamspeare, you will be tried for the murder of Mr. Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Soseki Natsume at present." "Mr. Naruhodo." Yes, Miss Green." "Yesterday at the hospital, when you and your friends stopped me from ending your own existence by drinking what was left of that poison bottle, I wasn't myself. I can't even really remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, seems. Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green. Oh? And I'd like to believe that it's a blessing Mr. Shamspeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least. Because of you, I chose life, not death. Now you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green. Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Yes, my lord? The court declares you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict not guilty. We are in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant not guilty. Court is adjourned. February 23rd, 3:24 p.m. The Old Bailey. Defendant's antechamber. Oh, yes, yes. At last. Divine justice duly done. Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache. No! This has nothing to do with my mustache! Some say that a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes. Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Once again, you saved me from doom. I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. Your second is in almost as many days. I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature while in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books. You've had such a difficult time, haven't you? Ah, but a week ago now. I dragged you out of the dark and dingy room of yours, did I not? You did. I have seen more life in this week than all my years to date. For the first time, I felt I began to see the true face of the ink, which had so far been hiding from me behind that wall of fog. My dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences. Yes, I think you're right. I finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was so attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live. Well said, I've come to feel the same way. I've made a decision too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan. What, really? I just wanted to become friends here in England. What a terrible shame. I know that does tug at my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own now. A novel of sorts, I suppose. Oh my, so you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume. How wonderful. Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature. Why not, when that's precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache? I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature, but as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I've no delusions of grandeur. I, for one, would love to read your work. Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper. Ah, that is very true. And there's no salvation for the person in the dock. Reaper's prosecutor, for which the Reaper's a prosecutor. The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is, one I quite understand. Oh my goodness, yes, faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure. But that's not what I'm leaving. I mean it. Objection. And that was the case we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Saseki-san did indeed return to Japan and submit a report to both cases about the government. It was on reading that second report that Professor Mikotaba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Suzato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well, on the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day. The day we uncovered the loot hidden by the now-deceased convict in his former lodgings. Mr. Natsume's room. Oh, well done, Mr. Sholmes. How simply marvelous of you. Oh yeah, I thought there'd be some loose ends to the case that would force us to reconsider, but that case wrapped up very neatly. Everything was explained, so that means there has to be something else here. That's simply marvelous of you. To uncover the secret hiding place in just a day. Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes? As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations, wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Gregson's just chomping on the fish and chips. Gregsy's been happily munching in agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily. I think perhaps humorlessly might be close to the truth. So, It transpires the old man fashioned a hider's space in the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot? Let's look then, if you're ready. Let's examine the late burglar's haul. What the? What is that? It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar. A collar? It's huge though. Look at the gemstone set in it. I can see why it's claimed to be worth 1,000 pounds. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside? There's some dark stains. You don't think it could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. Second thought, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then, of course, there's the emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does it signify, do you think? Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been? That's enough of that, I think. What? What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, oughtn't you? It should be very valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot. Now hand it over, now. Whatever it is, even Sherlock doesn't... I've never seen a collar that large before. And all those jewels certainly look to be extremely valuable. That's not what stood out the most to me. At least, not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar. Those stains. Could they really have been blood? Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use the basis of this month's story in the magazine. This case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. You're talking about the latest installment of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I presume. The Mystery of the Knife and the Mist, and the Mustache Man and the Convict's Curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story. Oh, I can't wait. A word, please, Iris. Yes, what is it, Hurley? I'm sorry, but, you can't write about this case. It's out of the question. Well, why not? It's a great case. Then I shall have to insist to limit yourself on the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear? Yes. Interesting. He knows something.
And so it was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
Episode 3, The Return of the Great Departed Soul. Austrian Empire, Ottoman Turkey.
The grand end of the century Great Exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities. Very few were aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the Crystal Tower itself, brought the truth to light.
Interesting, this isn't the final case. The Great Exposition
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people.
Yeah, this has pretty much been the event that's been set up for basically since the very start of the game.
The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment. Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location. Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before.
I can't imagine this going wrong in any possible way.
In but a few moments from now, this gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you!
This one! Yes! Whoa! Yes! Please! That's not what I wanted!
of October, or 9:36 a.m. Sholmes' suite. Runo, are you listening? Oh, sorry. What was that, Iris? What's the matter? What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast? No, that's not it at all. What are we talking about again? Today's paper is full of news about the Great Exhibition again. Oh yeah, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime. You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley? Oh, he's also down. Did you say something, Iris? Oh gosh, you're even more down. Oh, when did you arrive, Mr. Naruto? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together. What? Why didn't you mention before? I thought you might have known I was here, you know, because breakfast... Iris is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim. So much that I didn't even notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with the simple observations. Wait, what? Let's see, yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning with all of its unruly spikes. Clearly can be deduced, therefore, that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. Just doesn't look like a haircut, such I suppose. Thanks again. Crossed my mind recently. It's been 6 months now. 6 months since I was forbidden from working in court. So I've been wondering how much longer I'm gonna have to be banned. Oh, well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you get Hurley? you say something, Iris? He's back to moping. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down the dumps than me. I know, and the great exhibition is open. You'd think he'd be excited. Ooh, why don't we all go to see it together? I want to, of course I do, but I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective. So you're embroiled in a tricky case you can't be distracted from, is that it? I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Hurley. I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Iris notes. Ah, yes, this is where you note down ideas, isn't it, Iris? What's in the melting pot today? The blue carbuncle. Yeah, it's from a case of theft that Hurley solved ages ago. A theft of a precious stone. Carbuncle is another name for a garnet, you see, especially if it's cut with a rounded top. It can also be a squirrel-like creature or a lizard thing that you can summon to make a protective barrier. Oh, really? And this garnet was blue, wasn't it? Well, that's the thing. They're usually red. No blue garnets have ever been discovered. Oh. So who knows what the stolen gemstone actually was? That's the real mystery of the case. A proper Herlock Sholmes conundrum, huh? I can type with my eyes shut, you know. I can believe it. When a deadline's approaching, you sound like a Gatling gun. That reminds me of a dream I had the other day. It was such a funny one. It woke me, actually. I was typing for a whole hour in pitch black, but I didn't make a single mistake. That's incredible. Then, when it got light, I found that there wasn't any paper in the machine. Now, I wonder if I'd actually been typing at all. I think you might have just fallen asleep on the job. First, about the events 6 months ago. Let's just recap. Half a year ago now, I took on the defense of a young girl in a trial heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place at London pawnbrokery turned out to be one part of a much more far-reaching plot that involved the British government. During the course of the trial, it was found that I made an unavoidable, at the same time, unforgivable mistake. Well, it's failed me. The situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, ma'am. I will decide upon your fate the following conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I had to spend my time in research and study, so that's what I've been doing. You have, haven't you, Runo? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room, and the notes about Sholmes' old cases? Brewing Irish's special blends of tea, fetching my daily bread for me. You become something of a manservant around here, starting on the silverware next, Master Naruhodo. Master Naruhodo. Well, I guess I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider, specifically Lord Strongheart, the British Supreme Court at Whitehall. Lord Strongheart? Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice? Not my favorite fellow. He's not mine either, but he's the man I have to talk to. He's the only one who can grant permission for me to start working in the courts again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could, and I can't do that just sitting around here. The whole of London's been swept up in this great exposition, hasn't it? Most advanced science, most modern technology, and the finest work of arts, the feats of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing these things, and the world will be watching. Oh, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to look down on London and form those lovely balloons. Look down on? Do you mean those things fly? Yes, of course. They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings to do it. All you need is hot air. But how? How does hot air have anything to do with flying? It makes no sense. I can't understand it at all. It's true, a lot of new scientific discoveries. Most people don't understand them at first. In 100 years' time, all these things will just be common knowledge. Yeah, that's pretty, yeah, it's supposed to be poking fun at stuff like Napoleon said steam engine would never catch on because of future knowledge, but this actually is a thing that happens. In fact, I think an easy example I can think of from pop culture would be, say, superhero comics. A lot of older ones would give people superpowers through things like radiation, because radiation was something people didn't really know about. Like the Hulk comes to mind for this. So, or radioactive spider that gave Spider-Man his powers, but nowadays most people know radiation does not work that way. So they moved on to something else like DNA and genetic messing with genetic structures. Now, that's also not how DNA works, but since people are less familiar with it, they can get away with that more in fiction, or at least that's the reason why they've moved towards it. And it's not a problem that they stretch stuff for stories like that, so even though radiation does do that, the radioactive spider thing is still perfectly fine as a storytelling thing. It's just that they moved on to having it be a genetically modified spider and such to try and avoid seeming as silly, I guess. Whatever the reason, that's why. I'm pretty sure that's why, yeah. Oh, I suppose they might be. Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong in the open experiment stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it, though. I'd love to see how bad some of the experiments games really are. Just the innocent 10-year-old girl. See here. Every page of this paper carries some article or another about the great expedition. But the brighter things shine, the darker the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I found myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That's my proper atmosphere. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back page of the paper? First test of matter transport device. Every article on the front page is news about the Great Exposition. Public experiments demonstrate brand new scientific ideas, cultural exhibits from around the Grove. It's also positive and hopeful about the coming century. We must all go see it properly before too long. The Reaper attacked. So many glowing reports about the expedition and everything that's going on here. Other than this rather gloomy one that is. Wait, what? What's the matter, Runo? The Reaper attacked Lord Van Zykes and compatriot Corned. That's Lord Van Zykes! This must be what Mr. Scholl's is talking about. Does he know any more, I wonder? The Reaper attacked. Your gloomy mood. Are you investigating a particularly tricky case at the moment, Mr. Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add? That's not like you. What sort of case is it? Oh, quiet, Mr. Naruto. Shh. We must not discuss it here. You never know, might be listening. Oh. You're acting very strangely, Hurley. What do you mean, Iris? Well, usually, the more mysterious and complicated case is, the better Hurley's mood. Is it really a case that's bothering you? Iris, please, you mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say, put yourself in the shoes of the individual you're about to make deductions with. You say that, do you? You, Mr. Sholmes. Never mind, once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my own way at once to the crime scene. Ha. That was a deep sigh. The Reaper attacked. It says in the paper that Von Zykes was attacked. That's terrible. Well, you know the legend of the Reaper of Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Von Zykes is definitely reaching the top of my favorite prosecutors so far, but I guess I definitely have to see the ending before I can say anything for sure. Now, if I had to put the top 3, with assuming Von Zykes was in there somewhere, the others would probably be, well, Edgeworth is probably going to be up there because he's been in so many different games. We get to see a lot of different aspects of his character, his strong points and low points. It's just has a lot of room for development. And I actually think Franziska von Karma is a pretty good one, too. I mean, she starts just as ruthless and cruel as her father, but you see her going through a lot of personal development, which is a shame, because I think this game she debuts in felt kind of like a filler, if we're perfectly honest. It has some good cases for sure, but yeah, a lot of the second of the original trilogy was largely to set up for the third one. I know a lot of people like Godo, but while I do like him as a character, I do feel like he's the third prosecutor with a personal grudge against Phoenix Wright. So he does have a bit of overlap with the others, but I will say I did like his story overall, so he's definitely a pretty neat one, but yeah. As far as protagonists go, though, I will also say Ryanusuke I've liked quite a bit so far. Obviously, I do need to see the end of the game in the general sense as well, but... And again, Phoenix has the advantage that he's in the majority of the games, although I did want to like Athena, but it feels like we barely got any time to get to know her, you know? Hopefully, if they do some more Ace Attorney games, she'll get some more time to shine. Only too well, in fact. Yeah. Prosecutor Barrick von Zykes. They say that if the Reaper is the prosecutor in a case, there's no salvation for whoever's in the dock. Even if the defendant is found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights, one way or another, that person's time left on this earth will be short. London's finest rogues always find a way around the law. They'll stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial. Falsifying evidence, paying sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges. But even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hand of the Reaper. As you've experienced yourself, haven't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yeah, I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of these criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among the fraternities seemed to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital has a never-ending supply of such scoundrels. So, do you mean Lord Van Zykes has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time? He's quite an accomplished combatant, you know. He doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my, is he alright then? Is Van Zykes hurt? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know? Well, in the article here it says, as to what of Lord Van Zykes' condition, all will be revealed tomorrow morning's edition. I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait until tomorrow. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. But who? Who would? Oh, Lord Strongheart, perhaps? I guess we have all the more reason to speak with him as soon as we can. Ah. Sholmes already put on his coat. Well, I must be leaving now. Yeah, understood. See you later, Mr. Sholmes. Ha! You really are a shameless liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off my guard and follow me, don't you? Well, you'll be wasting your time. The thought hadn't crossed my mind, but now I'm wondering where you're going. Ah! Well then, see you later indeed. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out of the door. Wait, what? Alright then, Runu, let's get going. Iris, what are you wearing? I got changed to go to the Great Exposition. You're going to take me. Oh, but I was just about to go to the Supreme Court. Oh, well that sounds fun too. You're gonna take me there then. Alright, fine. Just lower that weapon, would you? Of course, after the Supreme Court, we'll go to the Great Exposition. _22 of October, British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Well, it's been about 6 months now since I was last here, but some things never change, like the sense of foreboding I always seem to feel in this place. And of course, it doesn't seem to be bothering Iris at all, though. She's happily reading over there. Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books here. Of course, I was forgetting that you've been here before. The time we came here 6 months ago. When Susato was given the news that she was to return to Japan. I understand you wish to speak with me. Oh, Lord Strongheart, I trust you've been keeping well? Let's see. Since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes, and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies. Not at all. I like understanding runs bearing into space. Good to know. Good to know that doesn't appear to bother him at all. Male Strongheart. Oh, like a maelstrom. The Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who allowed me to start practicing as a defense lawyer when I arrived in Britain as a student. You need only savor the air for a moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status. As you will be aware, the Great Exposition of London is now underway at last. We're extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium. Oh, I've not heard about that. Investigating authorities from 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future, the world must embrace it. And as we're the hosting nation, I have much to do. As is my highest priority, if others must wait for my attention as results, so be it. Well, it's nice to know where I stand. So, you wish to consult with me? Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about. Well, thank you for agreeing to this meeting, my lord. I want to be allowed to start working as a defense lawyer again in court. That's what brought me here today. But actually, there is something else playing on my mind. This happens. Bruno, just take a deep breath and come out with it. Permission to work. I came here today for ask your permission. Go on. 6 months ago, my right to work in court as a lawyer was revoked and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened. The thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system. And I desperately want to have another go. Please, permit me to enter the courtroom again. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Here it comes. I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriot. This was never your intended role. Well, that is true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend on the study tour, not me. It should have been Kazuma. He was so determined to bring change to our own justice system at home. That was his calling. If that tragic accident hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in this office now. Mr. Asogi was my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I have to fulfill his calling for him. His calling, you say? Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling? I'm sorry. The mission with which the young law student was charged. What do you suppose it really was? What do you mean? Mission. He's not making any sense. Never mind. I've read all the reports you've submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions. What do you mean? As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain. Thank you so much. That's wonderful news, Bruno. In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope. Of course, please let me tell me more. Forensic Science Symposium. Now, all sorts of conferences have been taking place all around the world to coincide with the Great Exposition. In the next month, the largest, most important of them will take place at last, the International Forensic Science Symposium. It does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it? Exactly. London, the global epicenter of culture, science, and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similarly startling rate, so it is imperative we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible. Which is what's known as forensic science, isn't it? Exactly, the future of policing. Ah. Regrettably, however, Britain is certainly dragging its feet when it comes to adoption of those scientific methods. Oh dear, that's alarming. Exactly, it is extremely alarming. If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you could be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. And I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reports to support my claim. I'm sorry. By way of apology for keeping you waiting earlier, I should detail everyone now. Oh, how fascinating. It all began 15 years ago. I was... Oh, great, it's going on and on. That's quite a bit, oh my. And that more or less sums up my feelings on the matter. It's the simplest of terms, of course. Essentially, to establish the forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission. Oh, right. Yes, that's wonderful. Exactly, wonderful is precisely what it will be. Iris isn't paying attention at all. She's got her nose in another book now. Oh, is it over? Did you learn anything useful? I actually drifted off for the most part. He's surprisingly ardent about forensic science. Curious affair. You described it as a curious affair. Yes, that's right. Well, it was reported in the press. Are you aware that there was a serious accident at the Great Exposition yesterday? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I read about it. A professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment. Let's see, how is it described? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, I think. Instantaneous kinesis, as in moving things with the click of fingers? That's right, it's just what my herbal blends need, a dash of don't make hair. Whatever the serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination. It's unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage, and a man lost his life. A certain Mr. Odiasman. Odie. So he's the dog from Garfield, an investor and well-known figure in society. A large explosion. A man died? The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Harebrain. He was detained immediately after the incident, and is due to appear in court tomorrow on the charge of murder. Well, what? Murder? If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There is very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation. The Great Exhibition, a scientific experiment gone wrong, and murder. I felt out of my depth before I'd even started. Still, we should go to the prison straight away then and try to meet with this German professor. Don't you think? Definitely. Yes, one more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper. Oh, Van Zykes, how? Oh, that reminds me, have you seen this? The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exposition? Of course. Not that, I mean the story on the back page. What story? Lord Van Zykes and compatriot cornered. The Reaper attacked. That. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, haven't you? Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he? There's no need for concern. Lord Van Zykes would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you. Can you tell us what happened? Like, no. Very well. If it interests you. It does, strangely. Just because he's the prosecutor doesn't mean he's our enemy. It just means we're on different sides of the debate, really. Fortunately, Von Zykes has emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He's a very capable fighter. Oh, that's incredible. They were armed with guns. How was he attacked, though? Do we know? It is related to events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Von Zykes. But the man was acquitted. I have no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes. Large sums of money. A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday. Oh, you're not suggesting that was the work of the Reapers, surely? The victim's henchman certainly seemed to think so. He was a man by the name of Asmund, Mr. Odiasman. Did you just say Asmund? That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exposition. Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality, the head of a significant criminal organization. Unbelievable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongheart? Try me. Why do you use Lord Van Zyx as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends outside the courtroom, and fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord Van Zyx first. I know there's no evidence he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but something's clearly going on here. I have Van Zyx work for the prosecution service for 2 reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him. That doesn't make sense, though. How can you explain the way so many have died if not by someone's hand? Van Zyx may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer, so he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget. 11 hours, that's something. That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man. I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments and 233 reasons. Oh yes, so where would I find Lord Van Zyx now? I would assume he's at his office. I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth. Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Hairbrain's defense entirely to your hands. Of course, yes, thank you very much, my lord. Prosecutor's office. I definitely want to go here first. Unless, of course, I'm supposed to go to the prison first, in which case he's not in. 22nd of October, Prosecutor's office. Ooh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office. Yes, it appears so. Sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere. Oh, is that... That hooded figure was so still I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. So, who's the person over there by the wall being, punished or something like that? No punishment is taking place here. That is my apprentice, and he's sitting there of his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. Must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper with Van Zyx. He is very able in combat, a requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage. Referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers. The Reaper? I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself, assuming that is such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms. Last night's attack. Lord Strongheart said the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack? True. Carried out by the henchmen of Odi Asmon's criminal organization. The investigation meant that arrests were imminent. Presumably, some hoped to kill me before that happened. Odi Asmon. He always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor, but his enormous wealth came to him by underhanded means via his criminal activities. And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper? But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was the most unusual cause of death. Oh, I haven't heard about that. It's a super high voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong, isn't it? Mr. Asmon died when the demonstration on the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion, right? Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen, do you? Well, no, that does seem a little far-fetched. This man really is the fabled Reaper. He has to be innocent in this particular death, at least. He also didn't cause the death of McGilda. That was entirely on Ashley Graydon. Ashley Great, and for some reason I was thinking Ashley Ashton. I mean, that name would fit in this universe, but not in this case. Isn't strange how it all worked out, Bruno? I mean, what with you taking on the professor's defense of the trial tomorrow? What? You're going to be defending him? Oh, yes, that's right, though I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest. Albert. Albert Harebrain. That's right. Do you know him by any chance? Of course. He's a contemporary of mine. We were at university together. You're... what? First of all, the Reaper's identity. What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean... I'm a crown prosecutor and mortal like any other. I am no demigod. But they've all died, haven't they? The people you prosecuted, I mean. Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or acquittal. Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People without question who deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them. Oh, but that wasn't true of Mr. Natsume. He wasn't foul at all. No, it's Jeannie. In fact, she's ever so hardworking now. I can't deny that since I encountered you, things have taken a turn. But the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It was not my work. Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. You were attacked by those ruffians because they believe it's true. The fact is that since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. It would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say? I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I'll adopt it gladly, with honor. But that's putting you in danger. Or you could be killed. If that is my fate, then we shall let God decide. Lord Van Zykes. The contemporary. I understood that Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though. Harebrain is from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research, that is all. So you were students together? I was in the faculty of law, of course. He was in science, so our paths rarely crossed. Curiously, we got along, though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him... only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems. Yes, I know. Because the prosecution will be handled by me. By you, but you made it sound as if you and the professor have been friends. We are friends, it is true. Then, why would you do this? If the Reaper's the prosecutor, there's nothing anyone can do to save him, he's doomed. What's Lord Van Zykes thinking? Maybe I can... Lord Van Zykes, about the article in this paper. Ah, yes, it seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I'd been photographed. It was careless of me. It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had run away, though. Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them. There's something else fighting alongside you, it seems. I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it? As I mentioned already, he's my apprentice. Perhaps you could tell us a little more about him? Actually, since he told us a bit about his... Can we show him this? I know you've seen this around my arm before, but... What is it exactly? It's the mark of a defense lawyer, in Japan at least. And what's the reason for showing it to a British prosecutor? Oh, well, I don't know really, I can understand at least. There's merit in reminding yourself of who helped you become who you are today. But that's a personal matter. Something you may want to keep close at all times, not something to flaunt. No, I suppose not. Thank you for understanding, though. I just thought he was gonna share his backstory if I did that. Because I did notice that everyone we showed this to, if it was a major character, they usually had some response. Although granted, I only realized that, unfortunately, in this game and not the first one. I might have to go back to check. Because usually, even though you have a defense attorney's thing in all games, it doesn't really do much the majority of the time. Your apprentice is in my tutelage to become a prosecutor, so you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose. Ah, like you are to Hurley then, Runo. I don't remember taking an apprenticeship with a great detective. He is currently compiling a report about last night's attack. Looks like he's wearing some kind of mask. On Lord Strongheart's orders, nobody's to know the man's face, or indeed his identity. Oh, but why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual? Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be good reason for his actions. I hope you're right. Wait, it's not Sholmes, is it? Ah. The task is complete. Good. In that case, you can collate all the briefs. He does have the same general jawline. It could be Sholmes. Nice to meet you. Back to work again. Though I will admit that's largely a guess based on the fact that there's only so many specifically named characters we can guess, and it's usually not going to turn out to not be someone important. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter. Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it. Oh, I see. Why are you so interested in my apprentice, anyway? Oh, I mean it. Sorry, I didn't mean to. The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be. Oh, yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Oh, what is that? That Japanese man, is he faring well? The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago. With the stoop and the mustache and the jitters. Ah, Mr. Natsume, you mean? I'm not sure you'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Runo. He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day. I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you spend it investigating the case. Yes, thank you for the advice, and for the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Soseki. I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried. My guess is he wants to see if his curse can go past outside of London, even overseas. And honestly, I thought it was just to make the plot a lot more complicated, but no. Whatever is causing this, even if it's just a string of coincidences, it doesn't work outside Japan. It doesn't work outside London. So he's indeed safe in Japan. I never imagined Mr. Reaper would be friends with the mad scientist, you know. It's a turn up for the books. Mad scientist. Ah, you mean Professor Harebrain? Yeah, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Van Zykes, I think. Look at that fine collection of hollowed chalices and bottles neatly lined up there. My hollowed bottles are filled with the essence of the finest grapes from the finest vineyards I visit. And I personally oversee these chalices being made by the finest crystal craftsmen in the world. And yet you throw them out in court like they were worthless. Yes, because this imbecile is so unimaginably repeatedly wide of mock sometimes. Oh. Before you open your mouth the next time, you should consider the poor artisans whose work you defile. So it's my fault. Silly me. How could I ever thought otherwise? Lord Van Zyk's desk. Look, it's so stylish. And that's a marble chess set beside it. Chess. That's the Western version of our Japanese shogi game, isn't it? You know, I'm actually quite good at shogi problems. Oh, really? You probably like the chess problems in that case. I'd love to challenge Lord Van Zyke sometime to a bout of shogi problems. If only you really want to challenge yourself, you could always do it on your own at home. Nothing particular of note. A painting. That portrait really dominates the room, doesn't it? It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly, whoever painted it didn't do a very good job of capturing Van Zyke's facial features. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not far off, but the artist has exaggerated the subject's handsomeness, I think. Ah, that reminds me. I heard Emperor Napoleon of France ordered artists to make him look more attractive when they painted him, too. How vain. It's really not that attractive a quality of a person, is it? That portrait does not paint me. Surely that's immediately obvious. Oh, then, who is it? Oh, look, it's a scale model the Great Exposition Showgrounds. That's amazing. I wonder why it's here. Perhaps he made it take his mind off the sadness, being too busy to attend in person? Or perhaps he's too embarrassed to queue up for a ticket. Surely it's obvious that I'm using it as an investigative aid. Ah! Oh, you Japanese have no business painting others as overtly reserved. I didn't think we'd overhear that. Look at all those ancient casks lining the wall there. Casks in the Reaper's chamber. Or are they caskets? You don't think all those people who escaped conviction and the court are lying inside them, do you? What ridiculous notions are going through your head, man? This is my collection of fine vintages. Yes, of course, thank you for clearing that up. Bruno and I are just musing to ourselves. Don't mind us, Mr. Reaper. I wouldn't if you hadn't invited yourself to my office talk nonsense within my earshot. It really looks like a punishment to me. I've never seen someone sitting like that before. He hasn't moved a muscle since we arrived. Do you think perhaps he's dead? If he was dead, Bruno, he wouldn't be sitting out, would he? Well, anyway, dead or alive, he's not overly approachable, is he? I don't think he's gonna talk to us. He's not dead. Bats. Wow, they were bats. Yes, the Reaper's familiars, I expect. What about the mute man in the dark coat? I thought he was a familiar. Just not the flying kind. He must be a dear friend of Mr. Reaper, then. I think the familiar idea is more likely. Scary, though, either way. And now we meet with our client. 22nd October, local prison, cell 11. The warden said cell 11, that's this one. Oh, there's someone curled up in a ball in the back there. Look. What's his name again? Professor Albert Hairbrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Hairbrain. Who are you? I'm Ryanosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. A lawyer? That was something I said. A lawyer, say? Would you be here about the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis? Your hypothesis? Sorry, I don't... Yesterday's demonstration, that magnificent demonstration was not a success by anyone's calculations. But despite that, no one listens. No lawyer believes in the science, which explains they'll leave at high velocity. Now it's probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while too. Yesterday's demonstration. You mentioned the demonstration yesterday. Papers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, a man died in an explosion, didn't he? Yes, you could interpret results that way if you really wanted to. Well, I suppose in the strictest sense, the experiment was a failure, but at the same time, it was a great success. You've lost me. I saw it with my own eyes right in front of me. Mr. Asman was spontaneously disassembled. Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the Crystal Tower by instantaneous kinesis. However, the machine exploded and Mr. Asman, in fact, perished. Yes, I can't deny that the experiment was a failure. So what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Mr. Asman was an accident, correct? But the bigwigs had you arrested on suspicion of murder. I was responsible for a man's death. That's the inimitable truth here. After that, I wish to be punished at once. But murder? Never in a million years. It was an accident. Simply an accident. I see. Charlie and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or murder. How exactly? Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody. On what grounds? Yes, it's a newly established here in Britain. Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. That one passed me by. If the case is treated as murder, then they'll say my machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pour it over as much as they like. If they examine in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My first hypothesis will be stolen. The machine must be protected. That's why it's imperative this whole incident's shown to have been an accident at tomorrow's trial. Oh, I seen it. Instantaneous kinesis. So in short, there was a terrible accident at the Great Exposition Showgrounds yesterday. Yes, or rather no, the devil's in the details, strictly speaking. There was a terrible explosion. Sounds the same to me. You're demonstrating a super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating. Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So it's possible using sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's it in a nutshell, that's my idea, you see? You see, that's my amazing hypothesis. Oh gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science. Oh, but dare to imagine, dare to dream of such incredible technology! Just think one moment I could be here in the cell, and the next I could be at the Great Exposition again. Well yes, that would be incredible. And next to the mere brink of an eye, I could be at the Great Parisian Theater. The possibilities are endless. The whole of our vast planet will be within reach. So no more hiding in wardrobes. It was on rocky seas for 50 days. I don't really see it like that. What do you mean, Iris? Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think it'd feel like it had shrunk. My word, that's exactly right. But what are the implications? What does this mean? Oops, that got Professor Bunny Brain really by the looks of it. Clearly, this is yet another case of just because he can doesn't mean he should, I suppose. The point is, my calculations are flawless, the science works, but without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. And that's always the fly in the ointment. Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money. Money young scientists like you don't have. That's exactly it, yes. Charlie's always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science. Well, anyway, I bumped into him at the right time. I met a well-known investor, Mr. Asman. The victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The Reaper's varsity years. I understand Lord Van Zyke is a friend of yours from your university days? Yes, that's right. He was studying law while I was studying science. What was he like back then? A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, all-around nice fellow, really. Sorry, I think you might have misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor Barak von Zykes. I was like when he was at university. Talk about a leading question, Runo. As I said, unassuming, extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Van Zykes family with all of its great aristocratic origins. I didn't realize he had quite a noble blood. Little darling? It's a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learned what he'd become. The Reaper Bailey, no less. Yes, that's right. I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation. Really? What sort of event? I'm sorry, but I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already. Oh, yes, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Van Zykes will be the prosecutor in court tomorrow. The victim. Tell us about the victim. The full name of the man who died in yesterday's accident was Mr. Odiasman, isn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man? He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I thank my lucky stars. I see, so you hadn't really known each other until then. Money for scientific research, I'm so envious. As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel. Oh, really? An archangel, even. He was prepared to fund a practical demonstration of my hypothesis for presentation of the Great Exhibition. If that went well, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. Mr. Asman provided with the money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications. But then your dreams were blown to dust in one enormous explosion. As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Asman. I would never, ever have thought of taking the man's life. Well, he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying. Alright, so Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. Huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying. You had no intent to harm the victim, who is in fact the sole investor in your work. Is that correct? As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it. Yes, it's true that the man perished in the machine of my invention, so I know I'm far from blameless in all this, but still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a person's life. Not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science, that's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of the truth, you know. I've always believed that, all my life. I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories, but I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law, that's all I know. You have to believe me, please. When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court. Alright, Runo. It's time. Time to visit the Great Exposition. Sorry. Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it? Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. The experimentation stage. 22nd of October. The Great Exhibition Grounds. Foot of the Crystal Tower. The showground's a little big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now, and I've felt myself swooning 3 times. Well, there are a lot of people, aren't there? I've almost been trodden on 3 times, too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. We finally made it through the throngs, though, by the look of it. Here we are underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. What is that? I can hear voices from up on the stage. Sounds like an argument. Right, I've had it with you this time. I'll warn you, I'll arrest you in a minute. Oh yeah, go on. Inspector, give it a shot. Got no evidence, you know it. Actually, look at that jawline of hers. Okay, so Sholmes or Lestrade are options for it. Either way, though, it's absolutely someone we know, because it's not going to be someone we don't already have a model for. Wait, I know those voices. You got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady, but the night in the cells will teach you some manners. Oh, just try it, I dare you. If you want that bag of chips rammed down your throat. I think he's already doing that for you, Gina. Yoo-hoo, Gregsy, what are you doing up there? It's you. It's you here. You're here. Here you are. You here. Your ladyship. How are you, your ladyship? I do hope you're well, your ladyship. Does that make her 3 times a lady? Either that or she's Beetlejuice. Say her name 3 times and it makes her get summoned. I'm not well. I'm far too busy everywhere. I wanted to ride a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue. Unbelievable. I'll be having a word for you at once, your ladyship. You'll be flying as high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Tobias Gregson, an inspector at the Scotland Yard. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but it appears back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and for that reason, he can't say a word wrong to the story's author, Iris. But there are limits, surely. Or there should be. Hey, watch the sunshine. Sorry? What gives then? Don't tell me you're on this case? Yes, I'm acting for the defense. So we're here to investigate. Oh dear me, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling? A measly 5 bob, is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't you? You can stand to carry a bit more copper around your pockets, Mr. Naruto. What? Hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is. You can have it back, we'll have to charge you for all the bother. 3 bob. This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket, or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. In that case that led my own suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court. What's your problem, Aoda? Diver, pickpocket? What was with all the name? You want a backward chips rammed down your throat and all too, do ya? Oh, I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina. You were just arguing with the Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks here at the showground. That ain't no... Talk to a lady, Odo. Half a year's a long time, people can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. Until I have to call me what everyone else does. Inspector Lestrade, now. Inspector? That badge is homemade, surely. The inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating's off the cards for all of us. What's that supposed to mean? Right, well, I'll be back up top. You hold the fort down here, alright? Right, sir. This raises a lot of questions. How long have I been going? 2.5 hours? Well, I think that's a good time. This is a good time to be ending it, so we're gonna go ahead and save and quit. Alright. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you had a good time. Since this is this is gonna date the video, but since I'm doing this in the month of October, there's going to be a bit of changes to the usual schedule, so I might jump around a handful of games, especially since this is a particularly long one. But rest assured, we're going to be doing a number of things, both theme around the month as well as some personal good stuff. So until next time, if you want to check out my VODs, I save the ones here for as long as Twitch allows, or if you want to see some older VODs, let's be sure to check out the link to my YouTube channel on my About page. Alright, thank you, and I'll see you next time.